Welcome to Books to Better Your Life. I'm so glad you're here. In this podcast, you'll find practical tips, quick recaps, and doable challenges inspired by some of the most impactful personal development books. You'll also get a behind-the-scenes look through author interviews, discovering the journeys and insights that shape their work. I'm Anne Brinkman, a habit and mindset coach who loves helping people find the tools that fit them and to get them started on the life they want. Ready to dive in? Today, we're talking with Nic Collins. Nic is a public speaker, mental health professional, and author with a passion for helping others live with authenticity, confidence, and alignment. He is a licensed professional counselor associate, certified rehabilitation counselor, and Maxwell Leadership certified speaker, coach, and facilitator. Nic is the creator and co-host of the Constant Quest podcast and curator of the Constant Quest Men's Gathering in the mountains of North Georgia, focusing on community, connection, and growth. He is the author of Advance, Discover Alignment and Authenticity by Living in Concert with Your Situation. Please note that today's conversation includes discussion of suicide and mental health challenges. Our intention is to explore this topic with care and understanding. Please listen in the way that feels most supportive for you, or feel free to pause and return if it feels right. Hello, Nic. Thanks for joining us today. And I'm so excited to talk about your new book, Advance, and to share the full title, Advance, Discover Alignment and Authenticity by Living in Concert with Your Situation.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm excited too. Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting with you about it and the whole process. And yeah, whatever comes up, I'm looking forward to it.
I think that something that's so powerful about this book of yours is all of those personal experiences and learnings that come from your own challenges. And I'm curious, what was that experience like to share those experiences so openly, open book for the world to read?
It was interesting. I'll start with that. Fortunately, I have some years worth of therapy and counseling where I got more comfortable, more comfortable understanding my own experiences in my life, and then ultimately more comfortable sharing them with people. So it didn't just start with me writing a book.
Mhm.
It was a progression over time of conversations with close family and friends, and then another level past that, and another level past that, and then being able to talk about it publicly. But yes, going through the process of writing in a book was its own interesting process because it brought up a lot of things that I don't necessarily talk about all the time. Now I'm open to talk about them, and certainly I want to share things when it's helpful with people, but that doesn't make it into my daily conversation. A lot of the stories that I wrote about in the book and a lot of the experiences that I wrote about in the book. So yeah, writing it was it brought up a lot of emotions. It was kind of emotional roller coaster in some ways. I talked about some triumphs in there and was able to reflect on how far I've come in certain areas of my life, which is really cool to recognize. Sometimes we don't do a great job of recognizing where we've come from to get where we are. So that was really neat. But then, yeah, also reliving some of the more difficult and challenging things. It brought up old relationships, friendships, habits, all of those.
Mhm.
But I mean, overall, a net very, very positive experience, but it did pull the emotions in every direction.
Mhm. Yeah, it sounds like really that building up to being able to do it, but that didn't still make it like piece of cake. It was still still brought up a lot for you.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that you share about in this book is a cross-country van trip across the US. I'm curious to start out with was what was most surprising for you around that trip?
In typical fashion, I don't always plan to meet other people's expectations. And this was really no different. I bought the van. My girlfriend, Nikki, and we bought it maybe 2 months before I left.
Mhm.
And really, that made the trip kind of become a reality. The fact that we bought it and then we scrambled to get it ready to live in and all of that. And I took the trip by myself. I left from home by myself. She flew out and met me on the West Coast. So I drove all the way from South Carolina to California to the Pacific Ocean, and I picked her up in Vegas on the way. And she spent a couple weeks with me out there.
Mhm.
And then I drove back. She flew home from Bozeman, Montana, and I drove back across the northern part of the United States over into Upper Peninsula, Michigan. I had been thinking of something like that for a long time, but I didn't really put all the pieces together to bring it to reality until just a couple months before. I was very fortunate to I was in a master's program. I was in the process of leaving a 18 and a half year career. And it just so happened that I had a couple of months where one, I had no school and no work. I had just left my job. And the second month, I was taking a self paced online class. So I would just stop in places along the way and make sure I got my work knocked out. And then I would go explore. So, yeah, several challenges came up. It was its own emotional kind of reflective process, self discovery, I would say. And then the portion that Nikki was with me, we got to explore parts of our relationship that we otherwise probably wouldn't tap into if we were just in our normal daily life. So, an awesome opportunity to explore depth of relationship with myself and relationship with Nikki, stop and see friends along the way. I went to California for the first time in my life, and we met some friends out there, met some other friends along the way, which was really cool. And I have to say that had I not taken that van trip, that was in May and June and July of 2024. So about a year and a half ago, had I not taken that trip, then I wouldn't have written this book, I don't think.
Hmm.
So it was very integral. And the book's not necessarily about the van trip. It does mention it. But I think just like the reflective nature of a trip like that, where you go to the depths of your soul and, rediscover yourself in a lot of ways. That was very helpful.
Hmm. What about that trip, that journey allows kind of that going to the depths of your soul, would you say?
A lot of time alone. And I was living in a van. And so, you're pretty bound, in physical proximity. I got out and explored places. I went to a lot of natural national parks. That was sort of my goal while I was doing it, to see a lot of different natural landscapes and places. I did end up in some cities, but mostly it was just that, get outside and explore. I'm a trail runner, endurance athlete. So being able to do some of those things in different places than I'd been in, all of that is also good reflective and thinking time for me generally in my daily habits. So a lot of that, and then just the ability to have it somewhere different. I was vulnerable. I think when we're in places we're not normally in, we let the guard down. I opened up for whatever came. We had some long conversations before I left about just openness to whatever happens, and to just sit in it. And going through a master's program in counseling and also spending 10 years in therapy myself, taught me over years how to listen to my emotions and feel them and sit in them and allow them to educate me and help prepare me for whatever is next. So I think it was a lot of that, a lot of those types of nights and days, try to limit cell phone use as much as I could. I didn't always do a great job of that, but a lot of times I did. And so it was just me and my thoughts, which is something we don't have the opportunity to experience that
Hmm.
much anymore. We have so many things and distractions. So it was just me on the top of a mountain by myself, or me sleeping in a van by myself, or me sitting by a river having lunch by myself with no other obligation. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I forgot to do all these work things, or I got to call this person back. When I pulled out of South Carolina, I left it here in a lot of ways. I mean, I had connections here. I checked in with family and Nikki all the time, but I didn't have those constant things that kind of walk around with us in our shadow, or whatever you want to say. I didn't feel like
Hmm.
they were weighing me down. So yeah, the freedom, really the freedom to just explore and be present.
Hmm. Yeah, sounds like a lot of time alone with your thoughts. Probably probably good that you had those years of therapy before that.
Big time.
Yeah. I remember either us talking or in the book, you had mentioned that you expected the book to be about the van trip, and then it turned into what it is now, Advance, which is more of the talking about your all your life, more of your life experiences. And what caused that shift for you from the van, sharing just about the van trip, to everything?
I appreciate you asking. I haven't talked about this very much since the book's come out or before, but while I was on the van trip, I didn't really think about writing the book. I have written some things before. I've been interested in writing a book. I started writing a book probably 10 or 12 years ago. That was a whole different concept than anything I've thought about recently. But I've always had the itch to do something in that realm. I've really tapped into and understood my creativity in the last 5 or 6 years. So it was something on the table in my life, writing a book, but I didn't know what yet. I didn't know how. I didn't know exactly what it would turn out to be. While I was on the van trip, I think just the reflective nature, I did keep a journal. I implemented this kind of process called the 15-5, and I did pull that from my corporate life. I didn't pull a whole lot of things probably behaviorally from there, but called the 15-5. It's where every day you spend 15 minutes writing down something that would take somebody 5 minutes to read. And so we're not
Mhm.
trying to write an essay. We're not trying to write 3 pages. We're just getting enough down to remember what happened that day. How did you feel? What did it smell like? Where did you go? Any kind of experiential things or sensory related things. So I did that. So I was keeping notes, I guess, with that and social media. I did record some videos and post them on Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, I didn't think about writing the book at all while I was on the van trip. It hit me maybe a couple months after I returned. And but the things that kept coming up in those daily journal entries were like, man, I need to get this organized and I need to get this on paper. And so my idea was to write about the van trip from beginning to end and then sprinkle in these little life wisdom
Mm,
realizations that I've had over time in my life. That was the original goal with the book. And so I sat down and started writing about how did I acquire the van? When did I decide to go? How was I able to
mm,
go at the age of 43 to take this much time off? So I started to go through some of those things and I got to a point, maybe 15 or 20,000 words in, and I was like, this book is about something different. It's not just about the van trip. It's about all of these other things that I think are so important in our life. So I chopped off to over 14,000 words and I put them on the shelf. And Advance is the book that I wrote that came out of that. So
mhm,
all of it great. Like I don't look at that as a negative thing. And I look at it as if I didn't go on the van trip, I wouldn't have started writing whatever other book I thought I was going to write. And if I didn't start writing that book, it wouldn't have turned into this book. So it just worked out the way that it was supposed to.
mhm. That yeah, it sounds like a natural progression for you around that. And now that this is the book that you have created, Advance, what do you want people to get from your book?
That's a good question. I think the overarching thing for me is that we all have our own makeup, our own skills, personality sets. We also have our own challenges. We have our own interests. A lot of the things that are unique to us, I think we go in search of people to tell us what to do or where to go, or else we've had that our whole life
Mm,
and it doesn't feel good. And so my book Advance is an encouragement to people to tap into that. We already have so many of the answers within us and we don't trust that a lot of times. And so it's how can I move through life? How can I continue to grow personally in a way that's unique to me, in a way that fits what I actually want? And so how can I do that authentically is kind of the main driver there. It's like a permission slip is the way that I call it. It's a permission slip for you to live your life the way that you want to live it, that you already know that you're capable of living and that you already want to do. But for whatever reason, we get off course there and feel kind of held down by that sometimes. But yeah, this book is just encouragement to live your life the way you want to live it, and some tools that hopefully help you do that. It's not me saying you should do this, you should do this. It's more like, man, if you use this tool in this way, maybe you can tap into something that speaks more directly to you. So it's still all about you being the author of your own life.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, I love that permission slip to live your life the way you want to.
Can I ask you a question, Anne?
Uh-huh.
Is that okay? I can't help it. I also have a podcast, so I can't not be.
Yeah, yeah, please.
You read the book. I just described
Yeah,
what the book is to me as the author.
yeah.
Is that what you got from it, or what would you say the book is about if you had to sum it in a sentence or two? You don't want me to ask you questions also, I won't do that
No, no,
again.
I let's do this. Yeah, I think, I'm so glad to hear you say that because I love hearing the author's perspective of it and, like, really distilling it. I think I haven't fully distilled it. There's so many elements from it and so many themes across it. What I hear is kind of the elements of your journey of like, there are pieces of your life that weren't authentic and you found ways to come around to it.
Mm,
What I hear kind of, I think, as a coach too, is I hear so many people in these kind of broken places and not seeing that light at the end of the tunnel and not necessarily believing that there's another route for themselves. And that's what I hear in that book is like, hey,
mm,
these really tough things happened and there's a way through and a way out. And I think that way is what you just
yeah.
shared is like, hey, you got to live in alignment with what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I appreciate that. Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, it's cool for me to hear, what other people take from it, because everybody, just like everybody has their own unique path, they have their own unique take on whatever it is they consume. And so I love hearing different takes from people. And yeah, you're exactly right. I wore a mask in every aspect of my life for a long time, and that wasn't working. And so how can I flip that into to make it into something that worked? And so that was showing up as myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that idea of mask, I think that's so common that a lot of us end up in that place of wearing a mask. And what do you think are the reasons we do that?
I think there's a lot of different reasons. I mean, some may be specific to geography or gender or family situation or yeah, I think there's a lot of environmental influencers and a lot of it is just learning, eventually I'm not an educator. I don't have children in the education system, but I think that it's really important at some point in our life to learn nervous system regulation and those type of skills. And I don't know that I ever really learned those. I didn't have a good understanding of how to express myself, how to manage my
Mhm.
emotions. A lot of those things didn't come until way later in my 30s. And so I think that's part of the challenge is education at a younger age for people. But we also live in a world right now where comparison and distraction are that's what we see every day of our life. And younger, we're kind of forced, maybe in some ways, or exposed to, I'll say it that way, we're exposed to so many different things. And it's hard. It's hard at 43 years old not to compare myself to the next person that's doing something in a similar realm as me. So certainly it's hard for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. And then the stories we tell ourselves at that age, they permeate, they stick for a long time. They're the narratives that we tell ourselves until we interrupt the cycle.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of people don't ever interrupt that cycle. So, fortunately for me, I wound up in a situation where I went to therapy and had a really good experience there. I dove in and I was open. And so I was able to start breaking some of those things down. I mean, I took myself all the way down to the foundation and built it back in a way that I understood and felt right for me. But yeah, a lot of challenges, I think, at early ages.
Yeah, yeah, and those can just keep propagating, right? Like we get so good at developing these coping strategies and ways to fit in. And you mentioned like therapy being really key for you. And also, originally, you weren't really interested in therapy. You probably were dragged kicking and screaming to it.
Yeah.
And I bet there's a lot of people in that same boat. What would you say to someone who's like, no, that's not for me? I don't need that. It's not going to help me, whatever.
It's a good question. It's one that keeps me up at night sometimes now because I had a great experience there along with my willingness to do the work. Therapy in some ways has sort of changed the trajectory of my life, changed the way that I look at myself and the way that I look at the world, the way I look at myself within the world was due to my experience in therapy. So I had a really good experience. So I want to share that. I recognize that's not everyone's experience. My experience was so good that I became a therapist. I
Mhm.
went and got a master's in counseling and rehabilitation, to try to work on what you just asked me. It keeps me up at night. I think there's still a lot of barriers to entry in the counseling world. You know, I'm a I'm a male from the southeastern United States. I understand that this is applicable to other groups of people, but this is the experience that I've had growing up. It was not cool to go to therapy. It wasn't cool to say you have, you know, mental health struggles. It wasn't cool to say you were upset, sad, afraid, overwhelmed. You just suck it up and keep going. So where I came from, yeah, therapy was a sign of weakness, is the way that we thought culturally.
Mhm.
I don't know where that came from, but that's the way that I felt. And I think that's the way that a lot of people feel is that, man, if is the second that I go in there, I'm admitting that something's wrong with me. And I don't think it's that at all. I mean, diagnosable or not, we all have traits. There's all this set of criteria. We feel a certain way, we behave and act a certain way. All diagnoses are is just trying to organize those in a way that we can treat them more effectively and better. It doesn't necessarily always mean, oh my gosh, you're way over here, you're an outlier, something is so wrong with you. I didn't understand that when I went to therapy. And it took me to get to a pretty low point in my life to walk in the door for the first time. So I understand it. But yeah, so what keeps me up a lot is how can we make it feel more inviting and less of a stigma around, speaking to a counselor. I think everybody could benefit from it. These podcasts, this is it for me. Like being able to talk through things helps me work it out in my brain. I never
Mhm.
knew that before. I thought I was supposed to sweep it all under the rug and ignore it. That was how
Uh-huh.
I lived my life. That's how a lot of us do. And then it festers and festers and festers until it feels like we're going to explode. So, yeah, those things that we suppress, they don't ever really die. They kind of just, they may lay dormant for a while, but at some point they end up festering to the point where they express themselves. And if we don't have the skills and tools to handle them, then it can look pretty bad.
Yeah, I think you bring up so much too in what you shared earlier around, like, we don't often have that education. I think maybe just now schools are starting to talk about more emotions and that, but so much of this development is brushed under the rug, and yeah, feelings are denied and encouraged to be denied. It sounds like that was a real shift for you.
I'm glad you mentioned. I do think we're getting better at it. I do think that it's more common, more accepted from parents, families, kids, school systems, whatever the case, just people, individuals in general. I think that may be one area where social media has helped exposure for that. I was feeling this way. I thought I was the only person in my city, county, state that felt this way. I thought I was on an island and that I was the only one that ever felt like this and no one else could relate. Well, had I had TikTok then, maybe I would have found that there's a whole community of people out there that have had felt like that and already figured out some things that they could do to make themselves feel better. So I do want to say that because I think in some ways, there's a benefit to our ability to connect and have access to information or whatever it may be. But I certainly felt at the time like I was on an island. I was the only one experiencing what I was. And so I dang sure wasn't going to talk about it or let anybody know that because I thought I was different and weird and broken and wrong and, all of those kind of negative feeling words.
Mhm. Yeah, and you share about that in your book too, about being at really depressed times in your life and also wondering if you'd be around in the morning.
Yeah.
Some really tough times.
I'm happy to talk about anything. I don't know what you do or don't want to share on here, but I'm happy to talk about whatever. Anything's on the table just to say that.
I think that that's such an important topic around, suicide and depression and like what you just said around people feeling alone around it, and what would be your message to someone who's struggling with that right now?
Number one, I'd say call me and let's talk about it. And I don't mean that from a business sense. I just mean sometimes we need to be able to say it out loud to somebody that's willing to listen.
Mhm.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. And I talk about this in the book a little bit. I felt like I was on an island for years and years of my life, maybe even decades, plural, in my life. I had so many people that loved me and cared for me and supported me and that would show up in a heartbeat, but I didn't realize that. I didn't view it as that. So I don't know what the disconnect was necessarily all the time. So I mean, that makes it really difficult when we're going through it, we kind of alienate ourselves to some degree. But I do think finding anybody that you can confide in, well, first of all, the thing that you do is anything that gets you to tomorrow, do that thing, whatever that is. For me, it was some vices.
Mhm.
For a lot of years, it was drinking or smoking or music or whatever the case was. But it got me here, and I wouldn't trade any of those things. I don't endorse those habits today. Thankfully, I continued to grow, but we got to meet ourselves where we are and start at that place. And sometimes it's a really, really bad place. And so, whatever we have to do to get to tomorrow, I would say that is the number one thing that we do. And then when we can talk about it with people, everybody's not our best friend. There's layers to our relationships, and we have to, understand what people we can and can't share it with. So in some cases, like my family was super close to me. They all cared. For whatever reason, that wasn't the group of people I felt comfortable sharing it with. So it wasn't until I sat on a couch in a therapy office that I felt like I could let it all rip. One of my friends that was living with me at the time, I wrote about her in the book a little bit. For whatever reason, she she had to wear it from me a lot. I just let it all out to her. And man, the immediate weight lifted off when I was able to share it with her. Like I still had bad nights. I still had a lot of work to do. I mean, I went to therapy for 10 years probably consistently. And it was a slow progression over time. But we got to start exactly where we are and do what we can do today to get till tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think you said something we don't often hear around using whatever skills, tools, coping strategies, even if they're vices, to get to that next day.
Yeah. May I speak to that for a second?
Yeah.
I think it's important that we talk about that. I was really excited to have that part in the book and to talk to people about that because and maybe this message is more to the helper.
Mhm.
We want to show up and help. And people are so genuine in wanting to help and kind to be able to help. And I respect and appreciate that so much. I don't think we always know exactly what the other person needs. It's easy for us
Mm.
to default to like, oh, well, you should just try this. Well, that may be what you would try in the state that you are in right now with the tools that you have. This person is somewhere else. So while we have to meet ourselves where we are, if we're the helper, we also have to meet that person where they are. So whatever brilliant idea we have when people are sad and it's like, oh, you should just go to the club and hook up with a girl, or oh, you should just go to church, or oh, you should just whatever. Chances are good they've already thought of all of those things plus
Mhm.
1,000 more. Sometimes what they need is for us to just listen and us to just be there. I say in the book, your presence is all that's required. We don't have to fix it. It's probably not going to be fixed today anyway, but what can we contribute to helping them get to the next day, get to the next moment? Make one little incremental step. We're not going to fix them in a day. And if they are at a place where all they know is drinking, smoking, isolation, sadness, us buying them tickets to a concert may not be the best for them. It may be sitting down and sharing a beer with them or a glass of wine or whatever it is in the case. I mean, I don't want to make it all about drinking, but for me, I had to have that to turn my brain off sometimes. I don't regret it.
Mhm.
I'm glad that I moved on from that and that's not where I am now. But that's the gap, I think, a lot of times. Like people are wherever they are. We want them to get here and we tell them to do things that assumes they're already at this place and they're not. There's a huge gap there.
Mhm.
And so how can we show up in that gap? I think is really important.
Yeah, as you say that, I think that our tendency might be to say, well, you should stop drinking, you should stop smoking. But you're actually saying that these may be the support in the moment that is actually helping them because they don't have another tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, yeah, that is a goal, but maybe that's not the start. Maybe they're drinking because of other underlying issues. Maybe there's other things that we could work on as a foundation before we pull that rug out from under them, which has become their comfort, right? Like that's their security blanket. That was my security blanket. So if you would have just come in and swept that out from under me, I wouldn't have really known how to act or respond. But I went to therapy every Tuesday at 11 o'clock and built tools I mean, I started doing that in 2006 or 7. I stopped drinking in 2019. All that work was being done. I was making such progress, but it took me that long to kind of kill that vice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder how has your perspective around alcohol shifted since you've stopped drinking?
For me, and I can only speak for me, this is my experience. Maybe it's helpful for some people, maybe it's not helpful for everybody, and I'm okay with that. I'm kind of indifferent on it, like in general, in public.
Mhm.
My message isn't everybody should stop drinking. I think the way that I live my life now kind of shows a steeper trajectory in life after I stopped drinking. So the proof's in the pudding a little bit there for my own, example. I allowed it to take over my life for a while when I was in my 20s and 30s for a little while. So I just realized that I had a hard time with self control. I couldn't go to dinner and have a drink or two. If I open the first one, I'm going to open the 20th one or how many ever it takes for me to end the evening, basically. And when I was upset and sad and lonely and depressed and all those things, I mean, I had to keep going until I passed out because I'd start drinking and I would start ruminating and having more negative thoughts. So for me, it was the best thing to do. I still don't say I quit drinking forever. I was involved in a traffic stop that landed me in jail one night. Fast forward 6.5 years, that was the last time I ever drank a sip of alcohol. I had done so much work to get me to that point to prepare me to do it. Had I not done all of the work for the decade before that, I probably would have gone straight to the bar when I left the jail that next morning. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had several people reach out to me and say, "Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to quit drinking. Tell me what you did." And I love having those conversations with people. I prefer them to be sober conversations. First, people want to reach out when they've been drinking, but I'm still there to listen and be there for them. And I just kind of share my experience, but I don't ever say this is what you should do. I just don't think people are receptive to that. We don't like to be told what to do. At least I don't. But if I see someone model a behavior that has changed their life, then I'm interested and I get to go ask them with curiosity. But also, some of the step programs have worked wonderfully for people. I never did those for no reason. It just wasn't the route that I took. They've helped millions and millions of people. So I don't have a problem with them. I'm glad that those people chose the step programs if it is something that helped them. That wasn't the route that I took. It felt overwhelming for me. It felt like this weight, on my shoulders to say, I'm never drinking again because I'm a
Mhm.
piece of shit alcohol. I don't know if I can cuss on here, but I'm an alcoholic and you know, I, I don't know. That didn't really speak to me. I just had to get through one day. I mean, when I got out of jail, that was my method. I think I talked about, yeah, no, I talked about that in the book. Was like, I'm just going to try to take a couple weeks off and make sure that my priorities are in order. And I made it a couple weeks and then I'm just going to make it to the court date. I made it to the court date, then probation, then community service. Then it was almost a year. I made it a year. Like, my gosh, if I could make it one year, that would be a miracle. The longest I'd probably ever been without drinking was a week or two over the past 20 years, before that. So that's what it was for me, was just the kind of daily, and I still do, like, I'm probably not gonna drink today. I've made it through lake days and football games and family events, holidays, vacation, you name it. I've made it through all those days. I could probably make it through today without drinking. That's my only goal.
Mhm. Well, I really appreciate you sharing in the book around that whole experience because I think that that's was interesting to read that story because you talk about a really beautiful day, really great experiences connecting with people and music and old friends, new friends, and then it ends with this arrest. And like you said, it could have gone either way, right? Of you could have just kept drinking, but instead it shifted you to that even stronger trajectory up. I just wanted to acknowledge that for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and I think that I may have alluded to it a minute ago, but I had laid a pretty solid foundation that enabled me to walk out of that jail and make the decisions that I made after that. I mean, yeah, it was touch and go for a little while. It was still a habit for me to drink. I mean, so I had to break a habit. That's hard to do. It was very challenging. But when I talk about leadership, sometimes one of the steps I usually use is leaders do the work in silence. We see people at this place and we think, oh my gosh, they're just born that way. They're just whatever. But there's so much work done in silence for people that are high performers at anything. And that's how I felt about that. Even to some of my friends where I live, it was like, oh my gosh, as soon as you quit drinking, you started doing this and this and this, you turned your life around. And I'm like, it was a trajectory shift, but it wasn't as steep, I think, as people thought because I was doing the internal work. I was laying the foundation. I had torn my entire identity down to the ground and exposed myself in every way and then just built it back piece by piece by piece by piece over a decade to enable me to walk out of that jail and not drink again for almost 7 years. So that's definitely worth mentioning because had I not been doing that work, then yeah, I don't think it would have gone the way that it went.
Yeah, like that idea of overnight success. Externally, it looks like, oh, well, he just made a choice in that
Yeah,
moment. And you did. And
sure.
also
Yeah, and right.
all this time building up to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't want to close the interview without asking about this whole idea of advance. Can you share a little bit about what that is and
Yeah,
how you find it so valuable?
yeah. I guess words are amazing to me. I love the way that words change over time, and we give different definitions to them, or definitions evolve, and some words come and go. And I'm just as a writer, as a creative, I just enjoy that. So I guess this is kind of my spin on a word that makes it more meaningful to me. So when I go to the mountains in North Georgia every January. I just got back. I was there for 8 days actually this year. I go spend some time alone in solitude and I read and write and play my guitar and run in trails and hike to waterfalls and all of those things that just feed my soul. Try to turn my phone off for the majority of the time. And there is a programmatic part too. I reflect on the last year. I have a structure that I follow at some point in the event, and I kind of look at my goals from the past year. I look at all the things that I've done, events I've been to, interactions I've had that feel significant. I reflect on all that. And then I look forward and plan in certain areas of my life for the coming year. So that's what I do. But when I was thinking about that event, I named it the advance because we use this word retreat a lot. And again, this is in no disrespect to the word retreat, but I just had a hard time with that given the fact that I ran from everything my entire life for a lot of years. I wore the mask, like I said, and I cowered out. I felt like a lot of times, and I ran from it. And that's a definition of retreat to me. And so when I hear the word retreat, I can't help but think about running away. And I know it doesn't mean that. I know there's wonderful retreats out there and I will attend some of them. But that was just my way of putting my stake in the ground and saying, like, I'm moving forward. I'm going somewhere else and it's going to be in a positive direction. I'm going to plan it intentionally. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to put together this annual time where I can do it and I'm going to move forward. And that's my message for everybody else is like, what does advancement look like for you? It doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be what your company tells you is the next step. It doesn't have to be whatever. It just has to be what lights you up and what fills your soul. And so I kind of adopted that word there. The advance in solitude is the trip I take on my own. My podcast partner and I, Taylor, we've created the Advance Men's Gathering. And so we've kind of done what you would know as a men's retreat. We just had it last weekend on the tail end of my time alone.
Mhm.
We had this men's gathering because of the same thing. Hey, we're going to address this head on. What's going on in your life? What isn't working? What challenges do we have? And we're going to create an environment of support and encouragement and challenge, but also inspiration. Yeah, it's been a beautiful thing. So I adopted that word, and it just always feels good to me when I talk to people, when I post stuff on the internet, when I wrote this book. Like man, let's just advance. Let's just put one foot in front of the other and see if we can buckle them up and face today and try to get a little bit better than yesterday.
I love that idea of retreat does seem like a counterintuitive word when you put it like that, of escaping and not advancing, maybe even going backwards.
There's I think I wrote about this in the book, but there's a song by JJ Grey, and he talks about going to this place near the Florida Georgia line out in the country. There's a pond and a little boat, and he's fishing, and he's got a cold beverage with him, and it's just serene. He's all by himself. And his buddy was like, "Oh, you go there to escape reality." And he's like, "Yeah, maybe so." And he said, "I got to thinking about it." And he's like, "No, I go there to get to reality."
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, that's really powerful for me to think about it, and I think about that in the advancement is like, man, this is all those things that I mentioned, that's life. Like my time in the mountains by myself, that's what life is about. My interaction with these men that we create connection and community and growth. That's life. Not all this other stuff that we fill our head with, this distraction.
Mhm.
So that's the stuff that's important to me.
Yeah. Yeah, but so easy to overlook and so easy to be focused on our to-do lists and all the things we're trying to get done instead.
Big time. I'm guilty of that too, and it's a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I've so appreciated your shares today in your book, Nick, and I want our readers to be able to connect with you further. Where can they connect with you? What should they look forward to from
Yeah.
you?
Thank you. Well, the book itself is on sale on Amazon, so you can get it on Amazon and other platforms. The audiobook is actually going to be out in the next 6 to 8 days. It's all done, so we're just
Oh,
waiting on it to load on Audible. I read it myself, which was a cool experience. So
neat.
that'll be available on Audible the first week of February. So I'm really excited about that. And then as far as me personally, I'm probably the most active on Instagram, Nic with no K, NIC, Nic_Collins_authentic is my handle on Instagram, Nic Collins on Facebook, Nic Collins Authentic on TikTok. Those are pretty much where I do things. I do LinkedIn a little bit. That's not my favorite, but I creep over there every once in a while and throw something up. NicCollinsAuthentic.com is my website. And yeah, I would love to interact with people. I just love good conversations like this. I mean, this has been so fun. So anybody that wants to reach out and chat about anything we talked about or anything further, or you want to pick my brain, I'm happy to do that. I do also have business ventures that include public speaking and coaching, and I also do mental health therapy that I went back to school for.
So many ways and avenues for people to connect with you. And I want to encourage everyone to pick up the book, or that's so exciting to hear that you have the Audible version coming out pretty soon and they can listen to you further there. Thanks so much, Nick. I really enjoyed getting to talk to you about the book and get a little bit of the behind the scenes or expanded version from it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for creating this platform. It's such a cool thing to do. I've gotten so into reading in the last probably 7 or 8 years, where I probably spent 15 years after college not reading at all. And it's just expanded my life in so many ways to pick up books. And I always look for ways to talk to people about what I'm reading. Obviously, I
Mhm.
wrote this book, so I certainly want to talk about that too. But yeah, to have a platform like you've created here to be able to talk about things that we pick up and learn from books is so cool. It was a really cool experience to be on here to talk with you about it.
Thanks so much. And now you're contributing to that books that other people are reading too. That's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Books to Better Your Life. If you could use some support on your own personal growth journey, please reach out. I'm an ICF certified life coach, and I help my clients with habits, mindset, confidence, and making what they want happen. I'm Ann Brinkman, and you can find me at www.betteryour.life. That's .life, not .com. Choose the contact option to send me a message and schedule a chat. A big thank you to our podcast editor, Lisa Ferguson, for editing today's episode.